My name is John O'Brien. I'm the architecture sales manager here at FDC, which means I primarily, even though we deal with a lot of graphics and different things, I'll show you a slide here in a second. My job is I work in tandem day in and day out with 3M, almost exclusively on the DI-NOC line all across the country. So I work with some days an architect, interior designer, distributors, end users, kind of a lot of things come across my plate. I've been around window film and architectural films going on 25 years now, with most of that in the window film. Last 4 years thereabouts, with a lot more DI-NOC architectural films on there. And so as we go through this presentation today, the goal is to make you more comfortable with DI-NOC, some of the ins and outs of DI-NOC, but also on the business side, where we see some gains to be made as far as developing business. And so I look forward to, as we get towards the end of it, I do have the questions open up here in the chat, and we'll address those at the end. Hopefully, I also have my counterpart here, Jason Harmon, who's on the East Coast, based out of Charlotte for FDC here. And so maybe at the end, if there's some questions that come across, he can chime in as well. So I know we have about a half hour here, so let's get into it. First of all, FDC, we're the company behind the scenes that you never really see. We make other people's life easier. We're the master distributor for DI-NOC, so we bring it in from overseas. And we take the big boxes, break them down into other things. We also deal with distributing a lot of other products, such as Lumina, R-Tape, Aslan, Sizer, and many other things there. So we do a lot of converting. We've been around since 1988 and been the master distributor for DI-NOC for a few years now. Now, as far as the history of DI-NOC, it's really fascinating because even myself, when I started selling DI-NOC, I thought it was a relatively new product. I didn't realize that it had been around for decades and decades. And so if you aren't aware, DI-NOC really goes back, got its real start into the marketplace in the 50s. You look at these cars here, we know them as Woodies. And guess what? That was DI-NOC. And the reason we don't see it so much in the auto industry now is really because of our friends in Japan. And this is still manufactured in Japan, and there's a reason for it. So 3M, as far as the manufacturing side being in Japan, the population in Japan years ago really started protecting all its natural resources, and in particular woods. And so what happened is, to get wood look, they had to go to some other product besides the natural thing. So they really started influencing it as to getting used in all kinds of applications. Now in Japan, it also had some other bonuses to it, that it was a very lightweight construction material. And because that entire country is prone to earthquakes, and enabled them to do different architectural elements without this weight load that would commonly be in there. It also allowed them to have a lot of design considerations that weren't really open before, because things like laminate and actual woods are hard to bend and do different things like that. So we really have to thank our friends in DI-NOC for getting it into the populace around the world for its high durability, its superior design, its decorative capabilities, used on a variety of surfaces. Now, we have these two contrasting pictures, the one of the station wagon going back into the 50s, and now you look at this picture, you look at the stairs going up, DI-NOC, the balcony, DI-NOC, the wall, DI-NOC, the column, DI-NOC. So tons of architectural elements that we're dealing with now. And I was just in Boston at the AIA, the Architect Convention in Boston, AIA 2025. And this was brought up time and time again, that this allows them to do things that other materials simply don't do. And so we'll get into that as we go through there. Now, some of the pain points that, whether you're a general contractor, an architect, interior designer, signage company, there are things that DI-NOC can help us overcome. First of all, cost savings compared to other construction materials. I know of a project in Dallas previously where they wanted to do American walnut, and there was going to be about 10,000 square feet of American walnut. When they got the price tag, it pretty much eliminated the project, but they still wanted that look. And so DI-NOC came in and was perfect for there. So it leads into the value engineering. We have some things, whether it's doors or elevator cabs, that are just super expensive. It can be super expensive to repair or replace, and DI-NOC can be come into there if the surface is in good condition. Even if we had to do some repair, works out really nice. A limited downtime. For example, hotels and hospitals, every hour that a room is down, it costs them money. So we solve that problem. Minimal debris. Really what comes off a DI-NOC is a little bit of scrap and then the recycled liner on the back side of it. It means less material in landfills, speedier construction, recycled content, not all the way through, but on a lot of it now. Lead points, if you're working with projects that involve that, it goes commercial, residential, it cleans really well. Story on that, I was at a hospital a few weeks ago that had been done 7 years ago. And a lot of the natural surfaces that were put in at the same time in a new wing show a lot of bleaching from the chemicals that are used on the doors and the tray tables and things. And the DI-NOC is holding up really well. It goes to point about the durability. Obviously, design options. There's almost 1,000 patterns that you can mix and match, come up with tens of thousands design options there. Lightweight, low odor, as opposed to other things out there that require some high glues or like paint, as an example. So just want to talk about the construction of DI-NOC because this does differentiate DI-NOC from other materials out there. It's an 8 mil product. And if you see in this illustration, it has these distinct layers on it. So you have your clear protection layer. It just takes all that abuse on there. We have the printed pattern layer, the base colored film layer. But the comply adhesive technology is an important thing to note on this because it is considered a permanent adhesive, but it's a perfect marriage of permanent and being able to take off when need be. So I was at that conference in Boston, and we had a table we wanted to redo, and it had been done with DI-NOC some years ago. And we couldn't just peel it up and take it off, but we put some heat to it and lifted up off there, and there was really no residue left on there. So that is a beauty. Also, some of the competitive products out there don't have this comply release. And so once it's stuck, there's absolutely no tearing it back for a second and repositioning that you can do with this. And so it creates a massive amount of labor. Also, some of the other competing products on the marketplace, they're thinner. For one, they just don't take the abuse. And kind of a side point, if you look at the abrasion-resistant materials within the DI-NOC line, they're actually 10 mil thick, and they have a couple of extra layers put on the top there. Now, if you have seen the beige book, the big catalog from 2024, you're going to see almost that, all the almost 1,000 patterns in there. But what we realized is that 80% of the sales really came from 20% of the materials, more or less. And so a commitment was made to solve any stocking issues that might have been part and parcel with DI-NOC in the past. So now within the 190 program, the quick ship program, as we call it, we will always have 4 to 5 in our warehouse. And then 3M has another commitment to keep 4 to 5 in the United States as well. So generally at all times, we're going to have 8 to 10 rolls of those patterns in the United States. And because most of the projects that come up are say 1 to 3 rolls, this means you just won't encounter time issues if we have to bring it in from Japan. That way now, if you're ordering 30 rolls and it's in the quick ship program, that might take a little bit longer, but our goal is, even if we don't have it in the US, that there's enough stock sitting in Japan that we would have it in your hands within 7 to 10 days, customs permitting on there. So we're going to get this out to you after this presentation. So you'll have these links to the electronic quick ship brochure. You'll also get a link to the DI-NOC work brochure, which shows just a lot of completed applications and different ideas. And then the DI-NOC link to the big beige catalog as well. This is important to know, and most people are pretty familiar at this point, but the quick ship patterns come in 4 different sizing, always 48 inches, but we did 16.4 feet, 32.8 feet. And if you're wondering why is that odd number of 0.4 feet, is really to take care of 8-foot doors. And so they can have enough to do both sides of an 8-foot door and no waste. 32.8, 4 doors, or excuse me, 2 doors, both sides, and no waste. And then we get up into the half roll and full roll. Now, if it's in the non-quick ship pattern, which is, a good 80% of those patterns, that is going to come to you only in full rolls. Now, we do have some left in stock, and we will sell those by the foot. The reason we really stress this is because it comes into the bidding process and how much waste to account for on the project. Obviously, we're kind of looking at linear footage needed on things, but we really want to stress that so that you don't undersell a project. Now, I'm not going to get into everything that's available, but I do want to let you know there are 3 that aren't available right now. One is the glass finishes, but then there's 2 others that, in my personal opinion, are going to be game changers down the road. One is the PVC free or the polyolefin film series. It's not a huge line, but if you happen to have a customer that has maybe a corporate mandate, something like that, then we're going to have that availability. Also, the tile, and this came up time and time again in conversation last week, is that there's a lot of projects sitting out there, whether it's your local gas station that was built in the 70s or 80s, or a hotel that was built 80s, 90s, or hospitals, different things like that, where they know that there is asbestos somewhere, somehow, behind this tile. And so to go through and tear that out creates all kinds of massive chaos and extra cost. So the tile film, it's a little bit thicker on the backside. It's going to go on like DI-NOC, and then it's going to press into the grooves. So I was told the other day, we're probably looking at having that available the 3rd quarter of this year. And I think it's just going to be a real, like I said, game changer for selling DI-NOC. Want to let you know about a resource that is available to you that we'll send out, and this is being updated all the time by our marketing people. And it just has all these current links to the brochures, if there's any changes to those, the catalogs, also case studies as they come up. You can access different things like that, so you'll have that. And I just want to take a moment to talk about this, and we'll come full circle to this here in a little bit. But if my background, because I didn't really come from the graphics, didn't come from the graphics side at all. So I got to see things from a different perspective. And so when I look at a building, I look at the doors, which is our number one opportunity across the world, really. But I was in a hotel just yesterday. The doors were old, oak looking, beat up, needs a total refresh in that hotel. The bathroom doors just looked old and tired. They functioned fine. They just looked old and tired. So that's a beautiful opportunity. You can see when it talks doors that it goes across all these different verticals that we mentioned here. Walls and ceilings, as an example, in San Diego at Snapdragon Stadium, when they redid the luxury boxes, all the ceilings in those luxury boxes they did with DI-NOC, and some other work in there too. Fixtures across the country, we do retail projects because they don't really want to have this downtime or this mess. So we can come in at night, redo the fixtures very cleanly, no smells, no odors, and get things done in a very nice manner for them. Elevators, I'll share a little what was told to me by a property manager, that we were looking at some elevators, and we gave her the price to redo 3 cabs. And she had us relook at our pricing because she just couldn't believe it was so low. And I was like, it's not particularly low, but her price to get the elevator cabs redone, like new paneling and everything, was $80,000 per elevator. So for 3 elevators, $240,000. So, a huge value engineering cost savings with DI-NOC if we can just go over the existing panels in these elevators. And bathroom partitions, you kind of go through these athletic clubs and all these kind of things, and all of a sudden the square footage starts adding up on these doors and stalls and bathrooms. And then even exterior facades, which we've seen a big uptick in exterior film requests, a lot from the architectural world. And this is common in Asia specifically, where they do a lot of facades with DI-NOC on the exterior. And so we think that's going to be a growing trend here in the US as well. Now let's just kind of go through some graphic and signage applications. You know, everybody on this call will know all these things very well. Not that all these are done with DI-NOC. They're just examples of where DI-NOC could have been used or could go back and update these signs without tearing them apart, perhaps. So monument signs, channel letter and background, you know, even on this wood background here, which is actual wood in this particular case, and there is a DI-NOC that sort of mimics that. Could look really nice. We see these letters being done with the wood grain DI-NOC here in the bottom left. The kiewit, the background, being all DI-NOC, and I believe the letters were done in one of the metal DI-NOCs over that as well. So opening up more design possibilities. Blade signs, kind of self-explanatory. You can see the nice wood grains or stone looks that are available here. Even all electronic message signs. We don't want to have the electrical touching it, but backgrounds to different things we could certainly tackle there as well. Wayfinding signs throughout a building. You know, especially if you're looking at a remodel project, now they can tie the doors into all the signage perfectly, if that is an aesthetic want on that project. But it just has a really nice look to it as well. Pylon signs, all the Jeep stores across the United States have DI-NOC spec not only in the interior, but some exterior, as shown here, all with the same wood grain. This happens to be a custom pattern that was made for Jeep. Here's an example of a facade that was done. I believe this is in Japan. I don't remember exactly, but you can see the updated with the wood grain on the backside, a nice lighter wood grain on the life there on the front. Now, this obviously is not lighted. There would be no light filtering through those letters. So we said kind of bringing this full circle. When we think about, you already have the signage connections, more than likely. Anybody kind of successful in business are going to have connections, and it could be, you know, say it's a retail chain or hospitality people or a local counties, cities, whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to put this as an example. Let's just say you're already doing graphics and signage for a regional bank. I don't want to say national bank because normally they're kind of handled in a different way, but a local regional bank. And you've been doing signage or graphics on that for a long time. But have you ever kind of looked inside the bank to look where all these other surfaces are that could be redone? So in this particular case, the face of all the teller areas, kind of even the countertop of the tellers, and then you go up into the ceiling, and you have all that. So you start adding it up, a lot of square footage, a lot of monies to be sold within just this particular area. I didn't even show in the pictures the bathrooms that are most likely outdated if everything else is outdated like this. Perhaps there's a case to do the ceilings with a nice wood or metal, and you know, maybe they're really trying to modernize things. It'd be a nice situation for that. And I'm going to take you through some of the assets that we have built to give you a lot of comfort level when you're out in the field or just to build your knowledge base on DI-NOC. And so the first thing, we've put together some nice frequently asked questions, simple things like, how do I maintain DI-NOC? Can it be repaired? How many finishes are available? What value does it provide to my customer? And you can reword these things in a way that's most comfortable for you, but we wanted to give you a quick guideline. And perhaps you have somebody new coming on staff too, that you want to get up to speed very quickly on DI-NOC. This will help that on the customer service end of it as well. Some more FAQs, why you would use it, maybe over high pressure laminates, over painting, where we're seeing success in the marketplace, samples you'd want to order through your distributor here, Lens, and they can help you out with that. Then we can kind of control the process on it. Is it recyclable? There's some recyclable things. You may not get asked so much about that if you're not in a state like California, Oregon, Washington, as an example, even parts of Minnesota, like Minneapolis area, that it'll be a situation there. But a lot of the the high sustainability states are where that's going to come up. So if you're not in a high sustainability state, it may never be a conversation. When you get this, you're going to have some links to just everything that you would need. Very quick, like the link here again to the product catalog, the different data sheets that you would need to give to the installers. Perhaps you're working with a wall covering company. Maybe you're partnering with them. We do have new processes for installing with wet methods and some nice products by Roman. And we also think a product coming out by Zinsser will also be really nice to work with as far as sealing that surface before DI-NOC can go up. You're going to get the fire test to the door assemblies, and this is something that I put together because this was a pain point for me in the past, that as I went to register, whether it was with a general contractor, or a county, a city, they would ask, hey, go through there and put in all these codes for what your product comes under. Well, believe it or not, these are all the codes that I have seen architectural finishes come up under. Now, obviously, if you put under other foundation, structure, and building exterior, you're probably going to get a bunch of junk that you would never want to deal with, but there occasionally might be something in there that comes for architectural film, believe it or not. And so I wanted to put this together so you have a quick resource. So when you register with these different entities, it just makes your life easier and you can choose to put them in or not. We will provide you the product performance, stain resistance, show you how it's performed with all kinds of things. Paint, because a lot of people will say, well, it's cheaper to paint than to use DI-NOC. And that could be one time. But the problem with paint is that the cleaning of it just wears it down. And with what happened during COVID, it got exposed that a lot of these more high-powered cleaners would just eat at the paint and it would leave marks. And where there's a business just not happy with their walls looking poor, or a hospital that was getting dinged because what they call their HCAP score, or kind of how good the hospital looks, more or less, then painting becomes not very cheap because you're doing it. I know one case of a hospital, they were repainting their doors every 2 weeks to keep up with the mandates of the abuse of that door. They put DI-NOC on it. Years later, they look great, super happy, no issues. We're going to give you a complete list of everything that we have tested cleaning with that worked out fine on it. And trust me, you can clean with just about anything that's you'd be available to buy. There's probably something out there that it's some industrial cleaner maybe, but everything that is pretty accessible, even in hospitals and healthcare, work out fine. We put in the fire rating documentation. This is key to know if you get asked about it. Hey, if we put DI-NOC on fire rated doors, well, it negate the fire rating on it. And the answer is no. We have a letter, and I can kind of highlight it. I don't have this highlighted on this one, but it does say that we achieve the 3-hour fire retardant that we need to achieve, or fire rating that we need to achieve. And so it's a letter that you'll be able to show to whoever you need to on it. This is a nice example showing the UV resistance. DI-NOC, after hundreds of hours in UV, barely changed, as opposed to high pressure laminate, veneer, paint gets ate up by ultraviolet easily. The wear resistance, you can have full confidence that you could put DI-NOC, even a non-abrasion resistant, on a countertop, and it's going to do very well. But just to let you know, there are a couple laminates out there, such as 3M 2200 and 3465. The 2200, you can field apply. It also has a compliant adhesive to it. The other one is meant to be laminated on a machine before it goes out into the field. So if you run across a situation that's just, is going to be extra abuse, there are extra measures we can take. I'm going to put this on here because anybody asks for any type of wood, I guarantee we pretty much have that available on that. And I just want to show you some before and after ideas. Before blank, this is using one of the stone series here. Bathroom doors. This is using one of our single color ones on here. And this door took about an hour and 10 minutes to get everything done on it. But it was a super solid door, and they just needed it cleaned up. A hospital or a hotel, the doors are just went from an old look to a new modern look. Cabinetry, this was in a hospital again, oldish, new, even desktops, kind of an indication of the casework that you can do. And just one last, just a corporate environment with before and after on that. So I'm going to stop sharing and
Hi, John. This is Heather with Glance. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
Okay, great. We have a few questions in our
Sure.
chat box, so I just wanted to make sure you saw them. How many non-PVC patterns will be initially offered, and will they be priced any differently?
Yeah, the different patterns, it's really only going to be one pattern. They're basically a solid color to begin with, but the hope is that'll expand pretty quick.
Okay.
That is the plan because 3M has kind of a self-mandated goal to try and get rid of PVC out of the products. So,
We have a question on here from Tia. It looks like that has received some damaged boxes, so
yeah.
we probably need to address that.
Yep.
Tia, maybe we can take that offline. I don't know if you saw that one or not, John.
Yeah, I can tell you that just came up in conversation last week is that I know because even a box I had sent to my house here had a little damage on
Damage.
it.
Mhm.
So it is a point of discussion that I don't know when that will be rectified. It comes from Japan in those boxes,
Hmm.
and it seems to get here from Japan fine, but then the FedEx drivers or the UPS drivers just the way they're handling it. So
Okay.
it's anyway. We do know about the issue though.
Okay. Tia, I will take note of your information and we will get you back a response, but it sounds like that is something they are working on. So thank you for bringing that. And it looks like Jason's going to also address it. Let's see here. What code are your outdoor products codes under?
They're going to have an EX next to them, and within the book, there's a whole page that shows all the EX together.
Okay.
And so EX is for exterior, and then AR is for abrasion resistant.
Great. Let's see. I don't see any other questions you all have for us today. Okay.
The one thing I didn't bring out is that part of my job, just because of my background, is that no, I just saw the products. No, all DI-NOC comes out of South Bend, Indiana. Uh, I've had the fortune and circumstance to work extensively with property managers, facility managers, K-12, healthcare, hospitality. And so I'd like to bring that experience to you. So it's something you'd work through, Jason. But if you wanted to get on a meeting with me and say, hey, John, we have these graphic connections or just connections in general um, with this vertical, could be hospitality, or whatever. We'd like to exploit that more, but maybe we've ran into some obstacles as who to talk to or how to wind our way through that process. I'm more than happy to get on a call and try and help you out through that process.
Perfect. I think we did have a question internally from a Glance employee that asked about setting up calls with customers if they're curious. So I assume we can work through Jason on that and get you all scheduled. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah. Jason, he's Superman. He's your Superman there. And so
Mhm. Mhm.
there might be occasion when he's on vacation, but I don't know that he ever takes an hour off. So,
Right.
but no, Jason and I work, we partner every single day. So he would just tell me, hey, this is, they would like to um, talk about this particular situation, or can you reach out to them to discuss it, and I'll take it from there. But it just makes it easier to funnel everything through to one
Perfect.
person.
Absolutely. And we all know how to get a hold of Jason, whether he likes it or not. Let's see. What other questions do you all have? Maybe application questions. We've got a lot of customers on here. Outdoor DI-NOC patterns.
Yeah, you know what? That's something that We do work on boats. Let me just
Okay.
put it that way. That particular question, I'm envisioning like the bow of a boat that might get a lot of salt water and stuff to it. I don't think the film itself would have an issue. My thought process is how you would seal the edges on
Mhm.
that. And generally, a boat is going to be more than 48 inches wide, so there's going to be a seam in there. And so, how would we address that seam? So, could it be done? Yes, but I see some technical obstacles that you would have to confirm on before
Maybe
doing it.
above water line would be okay, or internal, things like that.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah. And it's
water line.
something I could get. Like you have Jason's email there. Maybe people have my email too, but you can send that question. I'm going to write it down, or if you can take note of that, and I'll
Yes.
get with Scott Roth, who's our head trainer there in St. Paul, and I can ask them that very specific question. We've talked a lot about water intrusion. It came up because of bathroom stalls and different things that were done, but yeah, that salt and just the movement and different pressures on that could be,
Perfect.
yeah.
You see this one, sealing the edges
Yeah.
of DI-NOC, what adhesives or primer are recommended?
Yeah, so 3M makes a primer called 94. That's what you'd want to edge seal it with before you put the DI-NOC down. As far as what goes on top of that, there's a lot of 3M just simple silicone caulks that could be applicable for that moment. If it really got into some sort of serious outdoor situation, they make an impact protection adhesive, which is just a beast. It's used for security film and other things that you could use. So my point is kind of depending on the application, we could kind of look through the 3M list of things there.
All right, we do have a question outside of the chat. I did think we were going to talk a little bit about application a bit more. What are the limits for corners and conformability?
Sure.
And are there ever instances where installation is not but fit seams?
Yeah. So this, like you can see the curvature that we did with this, right? Now, if this was, say, 10 feet long and it started curving like this, almost like a spiral, that compound can be really tough. Now, this is might be big enough where we could get it into there, but we've been asked to do some really tight, like almost like balcony metal type twists, and you just simply cannot do that. As far as the shrinking on different things, there's different ways that you can do corners and different things. One is you can do cuts and overlap the film in there, but you can also heat it up and shrink it over corners. Some of it's going to depend on what is underneath that to latch onto. If there's nothing there, it might just be. And even we did this last weekend. We were playing with a couple corners just to see because there was some different underneath overhangs, and we just wanted to see how it would grip onto there. One of them, we just could not get it to grip onto the bottom side. It was actually a table that was supplied by the show, and so we just had to cut around the edges on that. Um, the shrink when you heat it up and you shrink it, it's amazing what you can do. But if you have a wood grain, if you shrink that up and you try and stretch it, that wood grain is going to go out of proportion. If you have a stone or something like that that already has some mottled look to it, you heat that up and you stretch it, it's kind of disappear more or less on it. So I would say that would also kind of dictate that question as to the pattern being used.
And
Is DI-NOC film removable?
yes.
Yeah, I talked about that just real quick, but the comply adhesive on here. So when I was at the show, we had a metal film there, and we took this just random table and we shrunk it on there, and we shrunk it all around the corners. I mean, it looked spectacular. It made it look like a copper top table. Well, I did it about 10 o'clock in the morning, and then I was there till about 6 at night. Well, if I had just peeled it off 2 seconds after I did it, it would have just come off. But it had tacked up enough that I actually had to take some heat to it to get it off. But then we had this other table where we wanted to make it look like a granite countertop. And so that had been on there for about a year and a half. And we were able to heat it up and get it off in some pretty good sized pieces without leaving a residue on the surface. So where it might not be removable is if you're going to wet installation over drywall, then the drywall is probably going to be sacrificial at that point.
Mhm.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Tia sent a bit more information, Jason, for you. So we'll get that. I don't see what other questions. These are good questions.
There was one other question that I believe was skipped.
Okay.
Sealing the edges of the DI-NOC, what adhesive or primer is recommended, John?
Yeah, so we talked about that. The 94 is the primer that you want to use to it. If you have a tough edge that you have to really like crank down, or it's going to be high abuse, the 94 you'd want to put on before you put the DI-NOC down. If you're just talking like edge sealing for water or cleanability, there's different silicones that 3M makes specifically that could be used to seal it. It's going to depend on the situation and sometimes the color too. So when I said like the Dow 795 is a silicone adhesive, it's a structural adhesive, but it comes in a bunch of colors. And so if you're using a dark or like a medium brown wood, they have some medium brown colors in the 795 that you could seal those edges with. As far as where it seams, I guess you could put some silicone or something down on there, but the reality is you're going to have to probably cover it with something structural if it's that prone to, say, moisture intrusion or chemical intrusion from cleaning or something. But if it's on a vertical, I really wouldn't worry about it. It's mainly on the horizontal or maybe some angles where that could be an issue.
Tia says she's had good seals with alcohol, it looks like. Denatured alcohol, like cleaning.
Yeah, and that's what you're going to clean it too. I didn't touch on that. A 70-30 mixture of isopropyl and water will clean the surface, generally speaking. Sometimes you're going to have to sand. It's a really rough surface, do some light sanding on it. Even a project that I know was done in Atlanta over old green granite that just looked way outdated. The cracks and different things. It was actually green marble. They took Bondo over all the cracks, and then they just let that dry and then put the DI-NOC over it.
Interesting.
You could even do, we got asked, can we put DI-NOC on plywood last week? And Scott happened to be there and we talked about it. And he said, yes, as long as you seal the top of that with one of our approved sealers, he saw no reason. He says, other than the texture might come up through the material. So obviously using like a high wood grain or something that would camouflage some of that would be best, but it would still stick to it if we sealed it properly.
And it looks like we have a link to purchase, so that's great. Thank you for posting that. And then we have another question about kind of how to quote this. So,
yeah, most people are going to quote it by square footage. And I will tell you my experience, unless you're just talking these doors that are, say they're almost a 4-foot door, 43 by 96, you're going to have almost no waste. In our experience, we had pretty much a minimum of 15% waste, but we generally calculated 20% waste. So on a door, say a 3-foot wide by 8-foot door, so immediately you're going to have this 12-inch swath off the edge of that film, because the film is 48 inches, that is just going to be waste. And you just take that all the way. As far as the pricing on that, I really don't want to get into that because you have your marketplace, your labor, what it's going to take there. Here on the West Coast, where I work primarily, we had some markets like San Francisco and Seattle where the guys would get paid no less than $88 an hour. So we had to factor in the time on that. Whereas if we were doing work maybe in, say, New Mexico or Texas, we didn't have that prevailing wage issue mandate. And so we could kind of factor it just as a square footage, kind of like we would window film or other things. So I would say you really can't answer that question. But as far as the waste goes, you take your actual sizes. Let's just say a 36 by 98 door. You're going to have a 48 by 98 inch piece. You can factor the square footage needed compared to the actual square footage. That'll give you that percentage of waste. And then you can just amortize that over everything. If you're going to do a whole wall, let's just say the wall is, let's just say it's 40 feet, right? And you're going to have almost no waste. Well, at 40 feet, you would have waste because you're going to have this little bit of waste 2 inches each time you overlap to do the seam. So you kind of would have this big piece at the end. But let's just say the wall is 38 feet by 8 feet. You're not going to have very much waste on that project. So it's just kind of a matter of
You may
figuring
want
it
to take into account orderable quantity. I don't know how you would quote that, but if you're not going to use it for another project, we can always quote you what the roll size would be. So you have orderable quantity and then of course your usage quantity. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was going to say that too, because the linear footage requirements that could come into play on
right.
on that as well.
You may have to order 2 rolls to do one job and have leftover. Will DI-NOC stick to expanded PVC or HDU?
As long as you seal the surface on it, it should be good. Some PVC laminate products, if they're exposed to heat, will every time they heat up and cool down, they'll off gas, and that just like with window film, it can cause the adhesive to fail prematurely. But we do a lot of store fixtures that are PVC and don't have any issues with it. Yes, we would like to have a level 5 surface at all times. So you're just going to have to kind of gauge, how you just don't want a porous surface at all. And so I'm just looking at the question. That was actually from Jason. Just surface preparation, sealing, the smoothness of the edge is pretty critical on it. My desktop, which you can't see, was the first time I ever touched DI-NOC years ago, and I just took a roll thinking that I could do it. Well, the first 12 inches, I didn't prep that well, and you see all these little pimples and dimples in there. And then I was like, oh my word, I didn't realize it's going to show like that. And so I kind of left it at that, did everything else perfect. The other 3/4 of my desk looks, I always mean to redo it, but I'm always too busy. But yeah, if you don't have it prepped properly, it will come back to haunt you sometimes.
I was going to go back to Stephanie's question just for a quick minute. We are launching next week the webinar, just a little plug for Glance, Sign Supply Wizard, which is a layout tool. So depending on what your projects are, you can calculate square footage and see how much usage. The tool will be for electrical signage, but you can see usage on that, and that's next Wednesday. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see here. DI-NOC dry install. And then, John, I'm going to probably call this in about 2 minutes. So anyone that has questions, please go ahead and put them in now so that we can close this out in the next couple minutes.
Yeah. So as far as the dry install, wet install, we have instructions for both. And so I would just leave it at that because there are some detailed instructions as to which would be better in that situation.
Okay. Your all's questions have been really great. Any other questions? Last call. Okay, great. So we really appreciate John and Jason for being on today. I apologize we had a few technical difficulties, times 2 this afternoon. So we do apologize for a little bit of a late start, and certainly appreciate everyone that was on the call today. We will have another webinar next Wednesday. Please join us. And for those that ask questions and have follow-ups, we will get back to you. So
thank you so much, everybody, for joining on, and hopefully it helped.